Welcome back to Just a Digital. We talk about video games and the classics that inspire them. I'm your host, Brett Clark.
And I'm Matt Keaton. And this week, folks, our writers are finally back from Bermuda, thankfully, and we're discussing crossplay and aim assist.
And be sure to stay tuned for our save point today, where we discuss your comments and talk about your questions, all right here on Just a Digital. So, Matt, do you want to start us off here? We got a question, topic, whatever you want to call it, written to us by a viewer of the show, and we've all known for a while now that you're better at reading them than I am. So, do you want to read that off for us?
Oh, yeah, sure. So, this is what brings us to today's episode with aim assist and crossplay. So, the comments from Sir Sona from last episode, Just the Digital. Another great episode in the books. Matt, be careful. Your age is showing with that Pogs reference. So the topic request is actually, what do y'all think of crossplay, and should they change things? The aim assist for controller, does it need to be increased, or is it in a good place? And should mouse and keyboard get more recoil than what they currently receive? Also, what game would you want to crossplay on today from any time period?
Well, breaking that down into something that's a little small, that's a loaded question, and thank you so much for the topic. We really do appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And if you guys want to write in, we'll talk about anything that you guys want us to talk about. So we appreciate that feedback from the community. The first thing on that is crossplay, and I think that I personally like crossplay quite a bit. And what it allows people to do, for those of you who don't know at home, crossplay allows you to play like on PC, Xbox, PS4. It doesn't really matter. The game itself can be played on all systems, and it eliminates the I have to play with somebody who has Xbox if I have an Xbox, or I have to play with someone on PlayStation who has a PlayStation, and allows you to just play with your friends no matter what system they're on. And I think that, crossplay is something that we should be seeing a lot more, and I think that developers need to focus a little bit more on. I mean, from your experience, Call of Duty, for instance, being the more recent one, you didn't really play Fortnite, but what do you think about crossplay, personally?
I think it's something that inevitably needed to happen. Something that we definitely are going to benefit from. As far as Call of Duty, being able to transfer everything over with character skins, customizations, things like that, it's been a blessing not to have to buy everything else on the next platform as well. So yeah, it's been a great experience for me. I think it's definitely a necessity in today's world, where all of our friends are on different platforms and gaming is blown up and everything's kind of gotten a lot bigger and better. And it's definitely something that we need, and I'm glad it's here.
What do you think the shortcomings of it are?
I think that the shortcomings are like when you've got third-party platforms, like you've got Epic Store, where they have basically what's out there in the world is two different games of like Rocket League, two different versions of it, one by Steam and the one by Epic Games. And so I know when we all tried to play Rocket League, when we were going to defend our banner and do all that, we had problems trying to connect together.
Mm-hmm.
And some of our friends couldn't join in because one had it from Epic Store, one had from Steam, and some of us are coming over from console. And so the crossplay was definitely weird. And my profile really didn't transfer, so I had to start all over fresh. So those are probably some of the things that you're going to run into going down the road with these types of games, is the inevitability of, maybe the servers don't read it quite right, or maybe the games just don't correlate correctly. And sometimes, like for instance with Ubisoft with Assassin's Creed, your saves transfer, but your trophy progression and the world progression maybe isn't glitched and kind of isn't perfected enough and is smooth enough. And so something like that, it's probably going to be an obstacle depending on the developer, the platform, the content, and the servers and things like that. So there's definitely going to be some stumbling blocks for sure.
Do you think that this is going to... You bring up trophies. I didn't even think about that. You've got systems like the Nintendo Switch where there is no achievement or trophy form. Do you think that this could hurt long-term the trophy hunting experience or the achievement hunters experience, because there isn't a universal gaming score? There's not like a universal score where it takes your PlayStation or Xbox and all that other stuff and puts it together. Like, nobody on Steam cares about your Steam achievements. I don't know what it is, but I think, does that open up the market for the digital score, where it takes your scores and combines them all together? We got to patent it.
Yeah,
it
we do
fast.
definitely, because that's one unified banner of just the games that you've played, mobile, consoles, PC, whatever the case may be. There's definitely got to be a way to do that for sure. I would love to have us market that and have us be like, yeah, these guys did that. That'd be great.
Well,
But yeah, I think there's just too many obstacles, too many different platforms for achievements and trophies to kind of blend together and coexist. And I think for me, it hasn't been upsetting transferring over to like the Xbox from the PlayStation and back and forth, vice versa. It hasn't really been a big issue for me to have to go play The Witcher 3 on a new platform and then go back through it and do everything else I did it again to try to platinum it or 100% achieve it. It's not really an issue. I don't think people really in today's world, I don't think people care anymore about their gamer score, the achievements, trophies, things like that. I just don't think people care about it as much anymore, unless I'm just that removed from, what the current kids are doing, and everyone's like, "Yo, my gamer score is repping 3,500 or whatever." It's like I don't think people care about that anymore, or that's just not an issue with the new generation of gamers.
mhm. Well, I mean, for like Xbox, for instance, there was a point where like Xbox gave you, based on your gamer score, it gave you like a classification of gamer. And once that happened, I was like, oh, where am I at? And I was like at like 52,000 gamer score. And I was like, there was only one friend who was above me on that. And I felt really hurt. I was like, man, I'm like, I got 52,000 gamer score. And
Hmm.
one person's beating me because they played Avatar, and
Hmm.
they got like 20 achievements from that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where, for me, I was like, okay, like the universal gamers score on Xbox was first, it was there before Sony implemented it on the PlayStation. And I think with crossplay, unless that's going to take my crossplay data and give me achievements and trophies, together, so that way it's not about a universal currency, it's just about the achievement is universal. You know what I mean? I think that's fine, but I do admit that there is something that kind of lacks when you don't have the achievement or you don't have that trophy. You don't have that way to, you know, feel like you've done everything. And I'm not saying that I platinum hunt or anything like that, but like Ghost of Tsushima was a game that I said on the podcast was worth the platinum. It was such a good game that it was worth my time to get the platinum, and still stand behind that. But I mean, like, imagine if I played it on the Switch and they didn't have a platinum. How would I justified it enough? Did I have to hit a
Hmm.
certain hour mark? Did I have to actually do everything? Because if I actually did everything in that game, like got all the flowers, got everything, I would still
Hmm.
be playing it.
Yeah.
And it's a good game, but it'd get repetitive after you drop 500 hours into a game that's
Yeah.
designed to take maybe 100, 200 max.
Yeah.
Like, then you start to see the flaws in it. You don't love it as much. But I think with crossplay, I think one of the things that I would change is communication methods, like in-game chat for Call of Duty and stuff like that, where you have like a really bad server like chat communication.
Hmm.
It just sounds robotic. It sounds old-fashioned. It's like, why are we talking on walkie-talkies? And I feel like something like Discord came up from like a necessity of needing a universal chat application for PC that was easily acceptable. Before that, it was like TeamSpeak, and it was super complicated to get like on a server and stuff like that. But I think that that's one of the things that I would change when it comes to that is simplicity, universal chatting, messaging. It's like almost like a gaming social media in a way. How about you?
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. My only fear with that is like if you've ever experienced the end of a game in Call of Duty and you're listening to game chat or you're trying to communicate and you hear sorry for those at home or on the road, you just get your ears assaulted. But
You have
it's
to
just
experience it.
it's so stupid.
Mhm.
It's an annoying thing, and it sometimes, I'll be honest, it kind of pisses me off because it ruins the gaming culture and the community. And when you're trying to just go home and relax and enjoy yourself, and you have some guys who are just like acting like they're hopped up on Ritalin and steroids and whatever, it
Mhm.
just ruins it. But I think deep down, I do agree they do need to have a universal social media for games where you can track your progress. And I think the original point of the trophies was to track your friends and to see what your friends are doing,
Mhm.
and achievements, trophies, etc. It would give you a way to see that, and I think that's a great idea. I think being able to see what your friends are doing and what they're completing and how far they're going in games is a great idea. And I think that's where it was intended to be, but I think originally it was taken a little too far with like I remember a news story, breaking news: gamer reaches 1 million gamer score, first to reach that plateau. And it's like, okay, but did you enjoy the games? Because I'm sorry, if you play the games to beat them that much and to do everything, it's not always fun. It's a grind and it's a chore and a challenge. So I think that kind of takes some of the fun out of it. Trophy hunting really, yeah, I don't enjoy when I do that, and that's why I stopped.
Mhm.
I just was grinding too much, not having fun, and I just think it's something that's tacked on that's just meant to be there for whoever wants it, and it's not appealing to everyone anymore. And I think they've kind of lost they've kind of lost their way with it. And I think social media, some sort of platform like Discord or something to connect and talk and game chat, a better way to filter out those who you don't want to hear. Also, I'm begging for, please, somebody, it's 2021. We all know for the past 30 years in gaming, there's been people who we don't want to hear in game chat. Fix it. Fix it. Just find a way. Fix it. Shut the
Mhm.
little guy up who's swallowing his microphone and intentionally being a distraction without us having to physically stop the game, go and mute the person, and then continue. And that's, to me, that's the annoyance, and that's the part of it that I wish they would fix.
Mhm.
And maybe there's a way they do that in the future where we can hear each other better, the audio quality is better, and communication is driven up. And honestly, that's like a quality check thing. That's like a performance quality issue that they could definitely work on. I just don't know if companies would want to support that.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, when it comes to like communication and chat like that, I think you got to look at it two different ways. There's people like you and me where we're playing on PC,
Hmm.
high end microphones. And then you've got people who, are a little younger. Like they don't have the money to do that. So they're buying like like a cheap Turtle Beach headset to plug in and talk to people. And every
Hmm.
time they shoot their gun, you hear the echo from the TV.
Hmm.
Like that is a situation where it's annoying to us. But at the same time, I've been in that kid's shoes. So I
Yeah.
understand like, okay, you can't really help it.
Hmm.
Um, and like if I get into a game chat and there's a kid who's got like the echoing TV, I'll be like, hey, could you like either turn down your mic sensitivity or turn down the TV because you're every time you shoot, like echoing to us. And most
Yeah.
people will be like, oh, sorry, man, like and people are normally good with it. It's just that sometimes you get the people who don't really care, and they're like, what's it hurting your experience? I don't care. I'm like, well, it's
Yeah.
how am I supposed to call out to you when I can't hear anything? And
Yeah.
then after you explain it to them that way, they kind of look at it. Okay, I don't want to lose rank. Same thing with CS:GO. The CS:GO community, like most of the time, it's kind of stupid. But once people understand, like, hey, like communication in games not the greatest. Like, can we figure out how to work it? Or they use type chat. That's what I love about PCs. It gives you multiple options. Where
Yeah.
on console, you don't really have much control over it. And that's the downside to crossplay is that some systems give you more options for audio, for graphics, field of view and stuff like that. And then you're stuck with, and on console, very limited uh, settings because in order to get the game to work efficiently for everybody, they have to lock the settings in for that setting, like for
Yeah.
POV or point like field of view, um, and that's something where with time as hardware gets closer and closer together and the performance of everything gets closer together, you're eventually going to see more and more of it. Like Borderlands 3, for instance, is crossplay, field of view sliders on both systems and also PC. But when it comes to frame rate, like you do get a much better frame rate on PC, but you can still plug in like whatever you want on PS4 and
Yeah.
Xbox, which is convenient. Same thing with Fortnite. Mouse and keyboard support on Fortnite, and that's kind of what I'm liking about crossplay is that they're seeing that it's the hardware at the end of the day, and then the experience is whatever you can offer to that person in that demographic.
Yeah.
But I think, do you have any other shortcomings that you can think of besides chat?
Oh, well, I think like you just kind of reiterated with the um, disadvantage of consoles because of the limitations in performance and frame rate and issues like that. Um, I don't really see any other big disadvantages. I mean, there's more positive upside
Mhm.
to it because it finally brings PlayStation gamers, Xbox gamers, PC gamers, and if there's some Switch games that I'm not mentioning, it brings the community of gamers together on all platforms, and I think that's kind of the best thing for it going. It's
Mhm.
the most positive takeaway. It's finally here after all this time that we've been wanting it, and nothing else really negative downside I would see of it.
Yeah. Positive side of things, one thing I really like about it is that it's finally here. It's something that we've wanted for years, like you said.
Hmm.
other thing that I gotta say about with crossplay that's really convenient is the fact that, you know, it's so close to where cell phones have gotten so powerful.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for console, PC, and mobile. That's what I'm waiting for. Console to PC, fine. But console, PC, and mobile devices like my phone, that is very. It's only been done once with Fortnite, and barely. I feel like once you do that, then we have reached the pinnacle of cross-platform, because
Yeah.
then I can plug a controller onto my smartphone or whatever and go whoa and play whatever I want. Like with XCloud, you know, that's super cool. The streaming ability to play games from your Xbox or your Steam library, like on your phone, like in a different room, cloud streaming, you know, is a great thing, and that's something we can completely talk about different in a different podcast. But it's very similar to crossplay, which is why I'm bringing it up. I think that's where I'm starting to like things a lot more. Is that you're seeing, you know, gaming anywhere, Xbox Play anywhere. You can play a digital game on either Xbox or PC. You know, I'm liking that because for one, it pushes digital content a lot more than physical. It's a
Yeah.
license, though. We've talked about it before on the podcast how much we like physical and digital, the benefits of
Yeah.
it. But I think crossplay is becoming to the point where, you know, if I purchase it on this storefront, I can play it on multiple devices. It's so convenient, you know. With Steam,
Yeah.
for instance, same thing with Steam, where we can share accounts and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I'm just amazed that they actually have games, video games, and like especially specifically in more recent times, first person shooters on mobile. That is mind blowing. And I mean, yeah, of course you can hook up a controller to it and use it that way, but for a lot of kids I see out in the world and things like that, they're just playing these things on their phone. The whole thing's on the touchscreen, and it's kind of incredible that technology that they're using. I'm very surprised that it's come that far. I never thought mobile gaming would have gotten to that degree with that intense of a demand where, you know, like you said, hopefully one day they reach the level of being able to, you know, play your PC games on your phone. And phones are getting better. They're always changing their what are they upgrading them 6 months your phone's outdated or something like that,
mhm.
and it's pretty crazy. So yeah, for the mobile community, hopefully crossplay makes that better for them. And I do like the idea that it gives kids another platform.
Mhm.
I just kind of wonder, is that really taking away from console gaming? Is like mobile gaming, is it dominating? Is it really taking away? I don't think so, because
Mhm.
we've seen with the recent demand for PlayStation 5's next generation hardware that console gaming is still super important at the forefront of this, and the crossplay being a great topic to bring up with that. How I'm kind of wondering how crossplay would work with mobile players, but again, that's just when they build a game like Call of Duty, it's not necessarily the same Call of Duty that you and I play on PC. It's a
Mhm.
watered down version with different graphics, different mechanics. It's actually its own entity and its own thing. And I'm kind of wondering if at some point down the road they get to the point where, hey, they start putting these games on mobile and all platforms and being able to handle that. And I'm pretty sure they could do that. I mean, you know, maybe I'm wrong, but it
Mhm.
just I would like to see that too.
Yeah, and one of the things that you mentioned was like the controls, for instance. Like you see kids playing
Hmm.
like right on the touchscreen, and that kind of brings up like the mouse and keyboard with aim assist debate. Uh, the issue with crossplay is that when now you've added variables, hardware, like different hardware
Hmm.
inside of it, you offer also controller variables. So, like for instance, someone on PC could play with mouse and keyboard, a controller, a VR headset, you know, full motion tracking VR headset. You know, now mind you, no one's playing first person shooter with VR. It's just not stable enough. Like no one's getting the FPS that they need for that, unless it's a VR specific game. But I don't think anybody in their right mind is gonna go, oh yes, I'm gonna play Apex Legends with my Valve controller, my Valve Index controller, because it gives me such precision. No,
Yeah.
no one's doing that. The tracking's not there for that. But you have those options to use those different controllers, and I
Hmm.
feel like now you're adding console, which is strictly been controller, Wii Motion Plus controls, stuff like that. Don't know anybody who'd play with that in first person shooters, but you have controllers more or less, and that's something where now when you add them into a battlefield or a player versus player situation, you could have hardware advantages,
Hmm.
mainly in first person shooters. If you were to take away aim assist, I believe most mouse and keyboards players would dominate controller players. And I'm not saying like Well, you have a couple outliers. We don't base it on the outliers. You base it on the averages. I think the average mouse and keyboard player would destroy the average console player with a controller without aim assist. So aim
Yeah, no
assist
doubt.
gives them the ability to have the precision of a mouse and keyboard with assisted aim, you know?
Hmm.
And that's not wrong. It's just that there is a distinct advantage to that player because he's playing on an inferior control scheme, you
Yeah.
know? And the issue with that is then players feel like, oh, it's unfair that you killed me with aim assist. You're not really doing the bulk of the work. But then on the reverse side, it's, oh, you've got a mouse and keyboard. Obviously, I'm limited by my sticks here. Like, there's two sides to the argument, and I think at the
Hmm.
end of the day, it's something that is not really going to go away. It's the argument that stood the test of time. Like people always argue which is better, and I think one of the things is if you're a really good console player, like a really good controller player, you can take it over to PC and do just fine. It's you've got aim assist, like you are used to that. But if you want to elevate your game, you can go to mouse and keyboard and you might get 10-20% better because you have way more control. And that's where I made the switch, was that I wanted to get full control over recoil and stuff like that. And going
Hmm.
back to controller, it's been very difficult because I'm out of practice, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's like I can go back and forth, give some time. It's not the end of the world. If I wake up tomorrow and they say you can only play this game in controller, I'd be like, well, time to play with a controller, I guess. It's not limiting for me. What do you think when it comes to that stuff?
So being a gamer who's had predominant time with the controller most of my life, and then just this past year, towards the end of 2020, becoming a keyboard and mouser, so to speak, I'm feeling like the whole situation is just up to what you're feeling. Me
Mhm.
personally, I've made the switch now, and I really don't want to go back. Kind of cringeworthy when I sit on the couch with the controller because I know my aim is not the same. And some of these games have done a great job at fine tuning the aim, and sometimes within the settings you can kind of get the controller joystick kind of how you want to, but you ultimately don't have that pinpoint accuracy that you do. So there's gives and takes.
Mhm.
Controller, it seems to me, in my personal opinion, with tweaking a bajillion settings, that your movement is smoother on controller when you're moving a character.
Mhm.
But when it comes to your targeting time and your reaction time and your movement speed and your ability to hit targets that you're aiming for, I feel like mouse wins out. And I think that's largely due to your arm being stretched out on a desk. And if you have an appropriate, mouse mat, I have the HyperX, which it fits the entire desk, and I can, smack my lamp off the table, but I'm going to get that 360 shot off.
Mhm.
I think that is an advantage for PC gamers, but the WSAD movement is a disadvantage
Mhm.
because you're not getting that pinpoint movement, and you really, unless you crouch and walk and stop and walk, you can then fine tune your movements when you're trying to move slower. But I think also the downside to controller gaming, and I find myself, the when you're in a shooter type situation, I don't feel like, for some reason, when I'm playing, my brain correlates that I need to strafe left and right the same as A and D on the keyboard,
Mhm.
and so I end up playing, I feel personally, worse on a controller than I do mouse and keyboard. And it's like, what do? You kind of weigh the odds, and it's just kind of what you're comfortable with. But I think not having aim assist on a mouse is not really a detriment. And I feel also the same way about a controller. I feel like personally, aim assist on a controller is also a detriment because I can't tell you how many times I have intentionally wanted to pinpoint an enemy, not at his head, maybe at his arm, maybe at his leg, because let's face it, not everybody peeks the corner with their head. I found multiple times where I had a guy crouch and stick his butt out
Mhm.
or from cover. You can't snap aim at that. What does it aim for? It auto targets to the center of mass in most games, not a headshot and not a body part. So for me, if you turn it off, it's a completely different experience. You
Mhm.
can actually fine tune your aim. And for me, like playing Cold War on that Series X, I hit targets every time because it's not snap aiming for me. It's relative and it's following my patterns. It almost feels like it's learning my movements, but it's not. It's your own muscle memory learning your movements.
Mhm.
But aim assist to me is also a detriment on controller. Yeah, those close quarters matches, those close quarters situations absolutely helps you. But long range, it to me, you can't control the recoil even as well as you can on a mouse. So to me personally, unless they like implement like a rumble feature in the mouse and your mouse is off the table, I don't think that's gonna change.
Yeah. For me, when I play with like a shooter, I notice like especially with like something like Apex Legends, Call of Duty, like
Mm-hmm.
anything that has fully automatic guns, I feel like my damage per bullet is much higher on console because
Mm-hmm.
with the aim assist, your bullets are like magnetically attracted to the person. I'm not saying that it's like aimbot, but what I'm saying is that if you shoot a guy and you've got the aim assist and you're hitting center mass, your bullet is going to hit center mass versus on a mouse where you go to shoot center mass, you might be off and shooting like on his side, he might strafe, so you might miss a shot, or you're putting shots on limbs which do less damage depending on the game. So you're not necessarily hitting him for full damage like you would on a controller. And I feel like you just shred sometimes on controller with that because you're hitting everything, you know. Call of Duty used to have really bad tick servers. For those who don't know, that's like how many times the server updates for information. And that would cause like if you had really good connection, you would like instead of shooting 3 bullets and you had a super fast gun, you'd actually hit the server with like 7 bullets and you just melt a guy. So I didn't like that, especially when you have the ability to have aim assist, and then like those 7 bullets are attracted to a guy around a corner. So I feel like there's benefits to each, there's downsides to each, because with mouse and keyboard, yes, you do have more precision, but you have to be more precise yourself. Controller's a little bit more forgiving, but you do have the limitations of you can't check corners as fast unless you have a super high sensitivity, and you're at the mercy of a little tiny ball on a little stick. It's like playing an old arcade game. But because of that, you have sensitivity differences, like you were bringing up with the WASD. Like, controller does have better movement. Like, you can slow creep, you can full send, walking, running, your movement side to side, like diagonally. You have a lot more options than you do on PC, which is why in PC, if you see someone peek a corner, sometimes you'll see them come out 90 degrees from the corner. Whereas like on console, a guy might be running like 45 degrees from that angle because he has a stick that allows him to do that, versus PC where you have to put in 2 inputs, and depending on if they put the input wrong, they might clip the corner. So there's things like that where if they could give me the 8-axis control of movement on a keyboard somehow, just maybe add a couple more buttons. Kidding, don't do that. But give me the precision of a mouse and keyboard. That'd be great. I know my buddy Taylor's dad, what he does is he plays with a Move controller for movement, and then he has a mouse with a bunch of buttons on it for like reloading and all that stuff.
Oh wow,
And that's how he plays PlayStation.
that sounds kind of painful in your right hand,
I
or
don't know.
whichever one
It's
is
crazy.
the mouse hand.
But I think aim assist, Cold War's aim assist is too strong. I'm gonna say it right here. I've played on PlayStation, I've played on PC, and I will say that aim assist is strong. That's the strongest aim assist I think I've played. I think the only aim assist that's stronger is GTA 5. If you've played GTA 5 with a controller and you pull the left trigger, you have an aimbot. That your guy is over here, your aim's just across the screen to the guy, and then it like locks onto him. You cannot die in GTA if you have aim assist on. It's almost as worse as Uncharted lock-on mode with the Uncharted 4, where you just shoot in the direction and your bullets are just like going around a corner hitting a guy. That's where aim assist gets a little more powerful, a little too powerful.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, like Warzone, slight nerf, because you can still hit aim assist through walls. That's something that some people don't realize. Aim assist can clip through walls depending on the game. And the only way that you really understand that is if you've played a lot of controller and you've experienced it yourself. Because otherwise, to someone who's like, oh, he's hacking, obviously he has aimbot. No, sometimes you go to swing through a wall and your controller slows down and you notice your aim slows down because the aim assist is kicking in for a guy who's on the other side of the wall. That's not his fault. That's the game being poorly coded. So that's kind of a rant on, aim assist. I think aim assist should be slightly nerfed. so that doesn't happen. So you can't get intel through walls. And then mouse and keyboard recoil, whatever you want to do to it, I don't care. I mean, what you're doing if you put in more recoil is you're actually damaging controller's ability to control it, because the recoil would be the same no matter what, unless you're really making the aim assist more powerful. Then it makes it really hard for mouse and keyboard to compete then, because if you make it where to the point where unless you have aim assist there's no way you're hitting a spread, then the game is pretty much like CSGO without aim assist. But CSGO, even look at those pros, even look at those high skilled players, they're still able to do a full spray because they get the muscle memory, and you have the ability to learn that with a mouse and keyboard. You can eventually develop physical muscle memory, which is a lot easier to develop. A big arm movement versus a little tiny thumb movement is much easier to control. And now spread that over 5-6 guns. I think that's one of the reasons why, for me, I love CSGO is for its skill, and recoil control, and it's taught me that any game I play now, the recoil is nothing compared to CSGO. But at the same time, it's like you go and play a game like Rainbow Six, where they've got recoil, but it's a little different, and if you lean, it's a little bit different, and your bullets hit. That's something where on a controller, it's the same exact experience as mouse and keyboard. The aim assist, helps you if you see the guy, but when it comes down to where bullets land and where bullets hit, it's the same experience. In my personal opinion. I mean, you see pro players sometimes play with a controller in ESA or ESL, I think it's called, whatever it is, the esports league for Rainbow Six. You see a couple people play with controllers, and I think that's cool. I think that's perfect. Once again, coming from Crossplay, they're seeing a diverse group of people, and I like that a lot. A couple Apex pros play with a controller because that's just what they're used to. At the end of the day, it's what you're comfortable with, like you said. But I personally think that tweak aim assist a little bit, bring it down so it doesn't clip through walls, and then we're fine. And then everything's good. I think the way that it is right now it's really well implemented, even though I don't like being on the receiving end of it. What about you?
Well, for me, I noticed because I have big hands, and a lot of people go to the turn to control freaks, the extensions on the thumbsticks that you attach to give yourself better aim. Well, when you have bigger hands that are even bigger than the top control freak, the tallest control freak, does not work for me, and that's why I was really disappointed, because it actually makes my movements on my thumbs worse, because if you have a smaller hand, it's extending your thumb up to a point at which it reaches higher, and then you have minimal movement. But for me, having big hands, it doesn't go up high enough for me to have that fine-tuned movement. So for me, it's just I feel like I'm kind of like if you were to play the games inebriated or intoxicated or tired or whatever, and your aim is just off. It feels very muddy and watery. It doesn't feel the same for me with control freaks. But with mouse and keyboard, without having aim assist and having to rely on your movement and your hand-eye coordination more, it's what I feel like. I feel like a controller is kind of like a crutch to your hand-eye coordination, where a mouse and keyboard absolutely requires you to be precise and be on top of your hand-eye coordination and your motor skills. And definitely G Fuel helps that as well.
Yeah.
But for me, with turning to control freaks, it doesn't help me, and aim assist just makes it worse, because when you have that wider angle, I almost feel like I'm kind of, how you play with a claw formation on the buttons with your fingers. Think of that if you were to do that with the joystick, where you were just using the joystick like an old arcade. That's what it would feel like. That's what it feels like for me trying to fine tune with the control freak. So it really doesn't help that matter.
Yeah, I play with control freaks personally just because I'm used to it, and that comes down to another thing with controllers. Personal preference in controllers. Like PlayStation versus Xbox. There's a lot of variables there for people to have preference. Some people play better with certain controllers. I don't care. If we're playing split screen Call of Duty, I'll still be competitive, I feel. Against my friends anyways. That's not an open challenge to challenge someone to split screen Call of Duty. Give me some time if you want to do that. But I mean, I'll always, if someone's down to play some MW3 split screen, I'll always throw down on that. I love that game, and it doesn't matter if it's on PlayStation or Xbox, it just the experience and the fun to play with your friends,
Yeah.
But I know some people who, my buddy Taylor from the Dark Mode podcast, he's like, oh, I can't play with an Xbox controller because it's super clicky on the bumpers. And it's that thing where it's like, crossplay, you know, controller, aim assist, all that stuff, like eventually it becomes the point where it's all personal preference again. But performance wise, does that really make or break the difference? Yes, it can. If that throws off your game, I guess. But in reality, it's like whatever you're comfortable with or whatever you want to play with. At the end of the day, I think is better than like not having it at all. To have these complaints is a good thing. Because then it gives you the options of freedom. Because you can play on PC with a PS4 controller or an Xbox controller on Call of Duty. You need to have that where you have more options for controls. Fortnite offers custom controllers, so you can use additional controllers just then of standard mouse and keyboard and a controller. There's stuff like that where I like it a lot. Where giving you the options good. And then there'll always be people who complain about it. But
yeah, I mean, and you look at crossplay, and to kind of close that deal on crossplay in that matter, as far as like mouse and keyboard goes, it's nice to see that they've implemented it on both ways. So controller on PC, oh wow, blows up. Same thing, console. A lot of games are going mouse and keyboard support as well, and that's fantastic to see. Haven't tried it out yet because I'm afraid to, because I figure it's not going to work. But hey, we'll give it a shot one day and see what happens. But I like that they're giving the options back and forth both ways, so that maybe, I think with crossplay, I think what we really need to see is better matchmaking when it comes to competitive games where they're playing cash tournaments, and certain people are just high skill level on a controller playing with a bunch of PC players who are even higher skill set. Vice versa, I think the matchmaking needs to help crossplay out definitely by putting controller players together, PC together, and then having the blend. If you're gonna have a blend, make it completely intentional and find a way to level the playing field. I don't think higher recoil is gonna help it, but definitely decreasing the recoil is also not going to help it. It's just going to make the community even more toxic.
Yeah.
And I think it's just, at the end of the day, all this talk about crossplay and preferences and things, it just depends on the environment. If people are toxic, they're going to complain one way or another. But I like that game companies and developers, and they're kind of keeping everybody in mind, and I love that. You play games together with people who aren't the same skill sets, don't know about the game, can hop in and do well, and show some of the veteran players up, and maybe show them some new things they didn't know about. And that's what I love about the community, willing to do crossplay, willing to do crossplay accessories back and forth and things like that. It just makes it better for everyone.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. And I think one of the things that you really got to look at is, I think people that complain, about it at the end of the day with crossplay, you have the option to turn it off. But a very interesting fact, closing note here, at one point, the top players in Fortnite and Call of Duty were all controller players, because if you really think about it, if you have the game knowledge, a pro player will have the game knowledge that another pro player will have. But now you add in the factor of aim assist. You have an assisted aiming method. That's where the argument comes for like cash tournaments, whether or not they should split it. And that's something that is a debate we can discuss later, because that's getting into esports and competition stuff. Not really necessarily about what we think about crossplay, because the reason I bring that up is just, it's interesting to think about, the fact that these are issues that you wouldn't have like 10 years ago,
Right.
I mean,
right.
For me as a mouse player, like I've gone through multiple mouses, like heavy mouses. I play with a super light mouse right now. Like you can see that it's got like nothing into it, But then I got friends who play with like super heavy mouses, and then I've got friends who are like, oh, I play with this controller, and their controller's got like their rumbles removed, Just that gets me excited about crossplay, is that you can have customization anywhere, and you can have your settings anywhere, So that's kind of cool. But with that being said, I think it's time for the save point, man. We're getting kind of late here.
Oh, save point.
Boom.
So we kind of read the one of the comments from our last episode. I figured definitely can't leave Robert out. He's been instrumental making music for us, being a part of our community. And so his comment pertains to the Pogs reference. Yes, I'm old. Get over it.
Mhm.
He says, Brett, look it up. They were fire. LOL.
Oh, you're talking about Pogs and that? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
You spelled my name wrong.
Yeah.
There's 2 T's in it, man. Let's get it right. Dude, I don't we could do a whole episode on Pogs. If you guys really want us to do an episode on Pogs, Matt's got to buy some and send them to me, and then we can do an episode on
Yeah.
Pogs.
Matt's got to find the very small mom and pop store that would still have some, or just Amazon them. I'll send
Could
you
we
some
make some?
randoms. What's that?
Could we make some?
I mean, yeah, I guess we could make some. I don't know
If
what kind
you
of quality you're
guys,
looking for.
Yeah. If you guys
Maybe
can
if we had
figure
a
out a way to
3D
make
printer.
them, send them to us and put your face on a Pog, and we'll play Pogs.
Yeah.
Imagine
we could
that
do
all of our viewers, we just have their faces or whatever.
Yeah,
That'd be a good
cool.
way for
That'd
you
be
guys
cool.
to get a shout out, other than what we do on the podcast already by thanking everybody. But yeah, if you guys want to see us play Pogs with your face on it, just take a picture and send us a Pog of yourself.
Yeah. So yeah, man. I don't know. It's been a crazy weather week here in Texas, man. It's been just nutso, and people are just freaking out. We had like a couple inches of snow. We had rain that froze on the roads, and everyone, like almost the entire southern part of Texas, like shut down because it was so scary. And yeah, man, we lost power. It was kind of crazy. My wife and I lit candles and just kind of made the best of it. And we only went about 24 hours without power, so it wasn't too bad. But my shout out and our hearts and prayers and everything go out to those who suffered through the time, and who suffered and didn't have power, didn't have water, couldn't go anywhere, didn't have food. Our thoughts and prayers are with y'all. Definitely, there's definitely a tough time, and it was just sad that it's like the whole entire state of Texas, the power grid doesn't run. And now I'm not an expert, but the power grid is independent from the federal power grid that's run by the government, and so there wasn't a resource to reach out to help sustain the power grid, and that's why they did the rolling blackouts. So we weren't technically a victim of like like just power failure across the board. It was an intentional blackout, which we didn't see coming. They just literally cut our power in the middle of the night. And thankfully we don't have any medical needs for the power. Like nobody was, clinging to life or anything. But it was just really frustrating for people. And so I just wanted to see how it's going up there, up north, up yonder, some 1,800 miles away there in Scants, and see how things are going with y'all.
It's going pretty good. I mean, we've got some bad weather. It's actually snowing right now, obviously, Wisconsin. But obviously the infrastructure here is much better for it. One thing I will say that Texas kind of shot itself in the foot with its renewable energy. Like they added a bunch of green energy to Texas, and the unfortunate side of it, it's like a lot of it's windmill and other stuff like that, and solar. I mean, one of the big things is they put a bunch of windmill farms out there. The issue is that stuff runs on oil, and with the temperatures being so low, you can't keep the windmills heated. So I mean, I work in an industrial engineering firm, so like it's one of those things where we see this and we're like, they should have had stuff stocked. They should have been more prepared on it. So, and then obviously if you can't deliver power, it's like it's useless at that point.
Yeah,
it's just a giant frozen piece of metal at the end of the day. And that's the downside, is that it was just so cold, and they didn't have the means to pump like heated oil into the fins of the fans, more or less. It's just, there's a lot of stuff going on with that, and it just comes with rapid change. Is that it's just something where there's going to be growing pains with renewable energy. And then this is something where like people, this is getting a little political, but people advocate for like, burning coal and stuff like that, and they're like, that coal never shut us down in the middle of Texas, and it's like,
yeah,
I gotta hear that every day at work, but I understand where like the frustration is, especially down there, and our thoughts and prayers go out to you people. But at the same time, it's the growing pains with renewable energy. It's a much cleaner way to do it, and unfortunately, you guys have to endure through that. So hopefully, we can help you guys and endure it a little better. Send proper equipment. Be prepared for the future. You got to get the right engineers in there to design it. Designers are just there to put an idea out there. Engineers end up fixing it in the long run. So that's how it works.
Absolutely. Hey, I mean, they want us to be able to plug all these 100 million cars in the future, and our power grids fail and have to be closed and roll out for something as simple as temperatures dropping to freezing. So it's kind of like, I mean, in the future, it kind of scares me, and energy-based cars are going to be lighter, won't be able to handle ice on the roads. And again, I'm just, kind of speculating and just being silly, but I mean, ultimately, we haven't had temperatures like this down here and any kind of snowstorm in Houston like this down in the armpit of Texas since like 1990.
Yeah.
So it's been unprecedented, definitely, and I know that's what led to the whole situation happening. But yeah, it's been fun. We've all tried to kind of keep our spirits up and make the most of it for the most part. And it's I was actually today, I had some people coming into our work and traveling from Great Britain and said, "Yeah, man, everyone's praying for Texas." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, everyone's just so concerned and they're seeing it in the social media. Texas is shut down and it's a disaster and everything. And I'm like, "Nah, it's about 60 outside right now. Go outside, enjoy your time. You missed the snowstorm, the mother of all snowstorms.
Yeah.
You'll be fine." And the weather's getting better. So like I told everybody, like, chill. In a week or two, it'll be 70 degrees again and we'll be fine. And we are.
Yeah.
So it's getting better.
Yeah, I think this, like you said, it's an unprecedented case of snow, and I think, yeah, you guys will be better prepared for it going forward. I don't think you guys will have this issue again. If you guys do, get out of your state, obviously, but otherwise, I don't think you guys really have to worry. That was one of the things that I found the most fascinating. Closing up here is that, like, people are without power in Texas, and I'm like, okay, well, they did a bunch of renewable energy. This should have worked out for them. They should have plenty of power. And then I'm like, oh, it's windmill energy. Oh, they have heated windmills. Oh, it's so cold that they can't get their heated windmills heated. Like, okay, like someone along the design process is just looking at that going, it'll be warm enough in Texas. It's Texas. And then they see the temperature and they go, well, and that's not warm enough, So
yeah,
future planning now. Someone's got to redesign that. So
for sure.
Hopefully going forward. If one of you guys listening to our podcast was the one who designed it, shame on you. No, just kidding. Hit me up. We'll talk about some engineering stuff. I'll sell you some stuff. You can sell me some stuff. Definitely not a plug for my work at all. I didn't get my work number out. But yeah, that's it for this week's save point. I think it's a pretty good save point. Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to say this. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in this week, as always. And if you guys ever want to leave us a comment, feel free to leave it down in the description. Not the description. Feel free to leave it down below in the comment section, or feel free to tweet out to us at #JustADigital. Yeah. We're always willing to talk to you guys, especially if it's about Texas. No. Closing thoughts here, though. One of the things that we had mentioned was what game would you make crossplay from the past? That was something Tim brought up in that, or Sona, my bad. Tim, if you can call you that on the podcast. We should be able to call him that. That's his name.
I don't think he cares at this point. Okay. I mean, I don't think he's worried about anonymity. Nah. If he is, man, he'll just shoot me in the foot later. It'll be fine.
Yeah, he'll come find you. He's got a special set of skills.
He does. Yeah. And he'll find me and use them. But yeah, man, I don't know. It's kind of a hard thing to think about if you just make it personal and think about what game would you really want to have crossplay. It's kind of unique. I really would like to have a lot of the more AAA titles that are like single player driven be kind of crossplay in a sense that they add a component with multiplayer where you could play with your friends. And then there's games like maybe the older Splinter Cells, some stuff like that. I think Splinter Cell franchise would have benefited from that, having the concept that they finally went with multiplayer and having another double agent or another, maybe Sam Fisher's sidekick or whoever, maybe another operative of some sort of design could be in there, and kind of what they did with Ghost Recon, where they made it squad based and kind of added to that, something like that being crossplay, or at least even if not that, kind of changing the thing a little bit, but maybe having an ability back then in the gaming to share it with your friends the way that you can now. Because now you can record it with your phone, you can record it with your capture card, or your devices, your consoles record, everything record. Having that ability back then would have been fantastic.
Here's one, and I've thought of it for a while. Like I was thinking of it just now. Back in the day, if RuneScape was crossplay with mobile, I would have.
I could see that.
I would have played nothing else other than RuneScape. I loved RuneScape as a kid. It was one of the first MMOs I really played, and I was never good at it. I really only had an iron sword and iron armor. I didn't have a computer like that, so I didn't really get to play online that much. So I had to play it at my mom's work during the summer. Um, and so like my mom we own a daycare, and so like if she wasn't using it for business or something like that, I'd be like, Mom, can we play on the computer? And we play RuneScape. You know, you get maybe an hour on it. So you log in after remembering your password and get to get like one agility point. You know, that's about all you got to accomplish in that day. So I didn't get too in depth in RuneScape. But if I had an iPod Touch and stuff like that, so I would have been like, oh, RuneScape on my iPod Touch or my phone, and then it's the same character and it carries over. That would have been fantastic.
Yeah.
And with the new mobile game, I'm not touching it. I'm not touching it with a 6-foot pole because I like my social life as it is right now. Eve Online, if Eve Online and Eve Echo is cross-played, be game over. Be game over. Because it
well, no, and you mentioned earlier too. You touched on like Discord.
Yep.
And like having a social media way to connect an in-game chat and up the quality. Because for those of you who don't experience Discord, I know a lot of gamers, people who actively play, who don't even know what Discord is, and that's kind of alarming because it's kind of funny because I didn't know either several months back, really. But Discord, being able to be on consoles, your idea, not going to take credit, your idea, fantastic idea to up the quality and the game chat ability and being able to share with your friends and having this platform that's PC based be able to connect, and so you can see, hey, so and so is online playing on PlayStation 4 instead of just PC alerts would be fantastic. And having a way to do something like this viral while playing on console would even be a even greater idea for me. And so I think, it just having that ability would just make it so much better for the community to communicate, stay in contact, and social networking and gaming together live like this would just be fantastic. And I think that's kind of what streaming does. It brings everybody together in that regard. But when for a gamer like me who's a couch with my wife type gamer, having to come over and disconnect and bring everything to my PC is difficult. So it's not always the best thing for me. It's not very convenient. So me being a PC gamer, it feels like an antisocial situation for me. Now, some people have their wives who have setups, and it's like you and your girlfriend have a wonderful setup there, and Tim and his wife have a wonderful setup where they both have their own gaming rigs and stations and everything. I don't have that because I'm not filthy rich and I don't have the extra money right now. But no, I'm just teasing. I just don't have that ability to put that in my space, and my wife's not really a keyboard and mouser. She's a Mario Kart and Nintendo Switch or portable gamer, and that works for us. But having something that could take to the consoles, so I could go to the couch and still talk with you without having to have a third earbud or earpiece to communicate would definitely be helpful.
I think I have the solution for that. It's a second PC, a couch PC.
A couch PC,
dude. Okay, so when I upgrade my PC, my next rig, I don't really sell hardware for this reason. I take the computer and I use it for something else. I'm gonna make just a straight PC rig for the living room. Throw a minimal graphics card into it, and then just literally have it sit on the living room for like living room games, like fighting games and stuff like that when people come over. And then that way I just have Discord on the living room all the time. And it wouldn't really cost me much. I could do it right now, but that means I lose my streaming PC, and eventually my next PC, hopefully I can like figure that out a little bit. But that's the answer, Matt. It's when you upgrade, don't sell your old PC. Just turn it into a living room PC.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know where. I wouldn't trust what do you call it?
Resell it.
Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace and get stabbed for it. No, thank you.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that. One of the things though, I will say that with Discord and stuff like that, really what it comes down to is, you have the mobile app for it and stuff like that. Like they really just need to find a way to have a headset paired to multiple things. If you can make a headset that paired to 2 devices, like you could plug it into your console with a dongle, and then you could also pair it via Bluetooth to like your phone and then run the Discord app. Guys, there's a reason why I have these great ideas. It's because it's a great idea, It should already
It
exist.
is.
But that's just my two take on it. And I think also like with games, as far as like cross-platform as a whole, games, equipment, it'll come with time, and I think we're gonna see more and more things get more similar. Like you're gonna eventually see there's gonna be no difference. It's gonna be like a car, where it's like your car gets you from A to B. Your PlayStation lets you play games A and B, you know. So versus your Xbox lets you play games B and C, you know, but you still can play game B. You know, I think we're gonna see very few exclusives, you know, because eventually these exclusives on Sony even get released to PC. Because I think the developers are getting smart and realizing accessibility makes them more money, you know.
Yeah.
Here's one thing though. What is your preferred browser? Because this is going to be my final point I bring up here with crossplay. Closing on.
My preferred browser is whatever works faster for me. I've noticed switching from Mac OS to Mac OS. I didn't really like Safari. On that, it was Chrome.
Mm-hmm.
On Windows, it transferred to Firefox. However, Firefox was very fidgety and to get certain web pages to not load Java and to sometimes load Java incorrectly. It's just stressful.
Mm-hmm.
Google Chrome is my preferred internet browser just because you can take it with you. You can sync it to your phone. You can go on your phone and say, oh, what was I looking at on the computer this morning? Oh, this. Okay, cool. So everything's synced together in one platform like that flawlessly is Google, at least at this stage in 2021.
And I knew that you were a Google Chrome fan because you originally were off it for a little bit, and I love Google Chrome too, even though they're taking our information. I don't care. But one of the things when it comes to cross-platform comes to mind is the GOG launcher, like for the storefront, because you can combine your Xbox, your PlayStation, your Nintendo, but it's like a third-party GitHub plugin, and your PC library, and your Steam library, and your GOG library. You can combine all of your gaming libraries and look at it at once. And that's like the ultimate cross-platform because like you can almost launch whatever you want from there too. You know, that's what we need. We need something to compete to Steam, you know, but that doesn't replace Steam. And I think the GOG launcher is the ultimate cross-platform launcher. It gives you social ability to see what your friends are playing, if it supports it, you know. And I think that's something where CD Projekt Red was very smart, you know. And it's a shame that their stock is doing so low. Like it's doing like half of what it used to be, you know, because if the company goes under, that launcher goes under, and that launcher I think is like the best way to have what we're looking for in the future, you know. So you got to look to something like that where you've got developers who are thinking about you as a consumer, and you know, a really good way to bring a community together. You know, sometimes it's off the beaten path. Like no one would ever think, oh, the GOG launcher, you know, but no, it's a really good product, and I really stand by it. And I think, especially with this talking about crossplay, the fact that it combines all your libraries, like you can't help but not mention it, you know, on a closing thought. But just like you have a preference for your browser, I think people are so gun-ho to say set in, oh, I buy all my games on Steam, I'm just going to stick to Steam. Well, no one's saying to not buy games on Steam. It's just the GOG launcher is another way to browse your entire media library. Like, and I feel like when I bring it up to people, they're like, I can't support that, you know? So I think that just like we've tried different browsers to find the one that we prefer, you never know. You might prefer GOG over Steam or Epic Games, you know? You never know. Try it out. Sample it out. But anyways, I think that's all the time we have for this week with Dista Digital. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. If you guys have any comments or concerns, feel free to reach out to us with the hashtag Dista Digital.
And also, guys, on Discord and Facebook, where we share the things you love and some of our greatest gaming experiences.
Yeah, we're glad to see you there. Anyways, from all of us here at Dista Digital, I'm Brett Clark.
And I'm Matt Keaton. Don't forget, you know who we are.
Yeah.
We'll catch you guys in the next one.
Yeah. Peace out.